I'm Susan Millsap. I am the professor of communication at Otterbein University, and I am the director of forensics for 36 years. From the beginning, it was a forensic organization that attracted small schools. There was another honorary that was out there, but they actively tried to recruit large programs, and so the smaller schools needed a place. So John Shields, in the founding of Pi Kappa Delta back in 1913, reached out to small schools in the Midwest, and then slowly to the West Coast, and slowly across into the East, slowly growing this organization until Pi Kappa Delta was the first organization to have a national tournament in speech and debate. Otterbein joins Pi Kappa Delta in 1924. So we were one of the early members of Pi Kappa Delta. We also hosted a national tournament in Ohio, but being a small campus, right, it was Otterbein in conjunction with Heidelberg University, and the students took the train back and forth between Westerville and Heidelberg to compete. We don't have that train anymore, right? But it existed then, and that was all that was needed. And so, we've continued that wonderful tradition of forensic competition. Ohio is still very good, very strong in competition. Heidelberg is still a member. And so it's, I think, speaks to how much the small universities, right, can contribute to that greater good and understanding of the importance of debate and oral communication.
Just seems to me, whenever an organization exists that requires some kind of effort and activity and persistence to earn membership, it develops an aura about it. I hate to say, class or something of that line, but anything that you just sign up for is anything you just sign up for. But one of the beauties about Pi Kappa Delta, in addition to all the other elements of the theory and the oath behind it all, one of those things about it is that you not everybody gets in. You gotta earn your way in. It's a good deal like, forgive me, being a boy or Girl Scout. You have the different levels, and one of the things I really like about it, and music departments have discovered this belatedly along the line, is the fact that you can excel in it without beating somebody else. The levels of achievement are not necessarily at the expense of other people. And I think that's an element that just is really to be treasured.
Dr. Grossinger was a wonderful guy who was chair of the speech and theater department for a time. And so he was a communication professor, but also enjoyed theater because that was the way this department was designed at the time. He was easy to talk to. He loved to talk. He loved to tell stories.
But this was back in the 50s, and we took a train, if you can imagine, a train from Columbus, Ohio to Seattle, Washington. And it was a great train trip. There was only one problem. I had been exposed to a burning pile of poison ivy some days before the big Pi Cap trip. So my face and forehead, and with me, a forehead is a large expanse of skin, was covered with poison ivy, and I was partly bandaged, and I was a mess and miserable. But that trip, for various reasons, was a memorable trip. It really was a lovely trip.
He has wonderful stories about the Prohibition movement here in Westerville. Every year we have the Howard Hyde Russell speech contest. Howard Hyde Russell's in the order of attainment in Pi Kappa Delta. He promoted Prohibition and created this speech tournament you could only give a speech in favor of prohibition. Okay? And so James Grissinger would tell this wonderful story of these speeches in favor of prohibition, and how Pussyfoot Johnson would always stand up at these events, right, and give his position on prohibition. And you can just imagine the joy that anybody would have in talking about Pussyfoot Johnson and prohibition in Westerville, where we would blow up saloons, etc. in the 20s. We still have the Howard Hyde Russell Speech Contest every spring, but you can give a speech on any persuasive topic. It doesn't have to be on prohibition anymore.
I knew Gris, do we want to say literally, since I was about that tall? And he used to remind me. He knew me. I knew you, and you were about that tall. I was like, okay, thanks so much for that. He was really the man with a vision. He was a man who said, this program is going to be committed to having multiple activities. We're going to have every activity that's important to have.
The other thing he did, I don't know when it started, I know I was here, but we actually, at some point, were able to give scholarships. They called them speech ability grants.
Oh, yeah.
Like, not just for high GPA and not just for a good ACT score.
He created that too. I forgot about that.
Well-rounded, so we would be able to offer, at the time, they were just gold for some people, $300 and $400 and $500 scholarships because you were on speech team in high school, because you had volunteered, because you were a leader.
Gris convinced the administration to offer a speech abilities grant, which was equivalent of a full tuition scholarship, and it could be divided up however you wanted to divide it up. And we brought a lot of students in.
If you could cut that up 15 ways and give a nice chunk.
$200, $300, that made a difference.
It made a big
to
difference.
people.
And
it
actually
felt valued.
Gris was totally approachable, never took himself so seriously. He had credentials all over the place, but he was student-centric. It was very level at many times. I think students felt safe in his presence. He was very involved in the community. He was on city council, school board, anything. He was something of the year. You go up to City Hall, you'll find his name somewhere. And he was very involved. He wasn't just preaching community service, he was doing it. And just all the values of
and his character.
Yeah.
An absolute character, and the students loved him. Yeah.
And so, I mean, that was a great role model for even us. He would help mentor us in what a full, well-rounded, it wasn't somebody who just cranked out publications and research. He was very present and engaged in whoever was in the room. And I think it's not only why is eternally significant.
He was he was a masterful individual events coach. He worked with Dr. Dodrell, and in his office was a pegboard wall, as big as this wall, and then there was another wall, and it had all the plaques from the Ohio Forensics Association, individual events, championships, and the only thing that was on that wall were first place plaques. And there must have been 50, 60 of them. It was all kids that he coached or Dr. Dodrell coached.
He has a famous quote of, "If it's worth doing, it's worth getting credit for." And so here at Otterbein, when you sign up for forensics, you can get academic credit. He made speech and debate part of the curriculum. So in that way, it's not going away, because it's part of the curriculum of the communication department. Communication studies majors are required to take forensics. So while some schools have to kind of beg every year from a student organization fund or from whatever their power at B is to maintain funding, right? We don't have to. It's always here. It's supported because it's worth getting credit for. So it's part of our curriculum.
Otterbein in the country was, as we know, in 1847, the second college in the nation to admit women on an equal basis with men. With that kind of background, it is certain that we admitted women to Pi Kappa Delta from the very beginning.
Pi Kappa Delta initially did not accept students of color. That changed, right? But it took effort to change that. And in fact, movies have been made. The great debates, etc., have been made about that issue. But along with that issue is every other social issue that you see. Women used to compete separately from men. We used to have men's informative and women's informative. Well, no, now it's just informative, okay, which is good. But you still have power issues and social issues that are involved, and people worry about the health of students and how they're treated. And so, yes, there have been instances where there's been harassment or discrimination of some kind. But the thing about forensic participation is that it tends to be a very accepting organization overall. Are there certain examples or instances where what we don't want to have happen happens? Yes. But Pi Kappa Delta has addressed it, right? So have all the other national forensic organizations, and they work hard, right, to make sure that we remain an open and accepting organization.
I have honestly felt very welcomed by Pi Kappa, by the forensics team. Given that they're so small, it's very easy to meet everyone, and we only meet like twice a week, 3 times a week sometimes. So it's very easy to get to know everyone's names. They ask you how you're doing. When they see you're on campus, they'll say hi. When you have speech and debate tournaments, you spend a lot of time with people, so it's hard not to get to know them and be friendly with them. I do acknowledge that there are certain things, such as name pronunciation has been my thing, that could be better about the community that we've built. But I think that comes with making the space more inclusive, and as the space gets bigger, there'll be more practice in being respectful of different spellings. In the future, I can see it being more diverse because within like the judging and ranking community, there has sort of been talks about like deconstructing certain biases that people have when it comes to determining who is the best speaker, the best debater, because there are a lot of things that people don't consider. There are like these inequalities within judging that are being talked about and discussed and dissected that I feel like as those barriers are broken down, speech and debate will like grow. Because part of what I think hurt it in the first place were these invisible and unspoken like barriers and judgments made about certain people who didn't fit the debater look. But now the debater look is being more interrogated and being considered that a debater can look like anyone. What matters is how they deliver their argument and what they're saying. I think more people will feel more comfortable joining the forensics realm as it becomes more inclusive.
We generally have about 7 to 10 students who will participate on a regular basis, whether they're both the committed students who are doing it all the time or the students who are kind of rotating in as their requirement.
I don't think until maybe my second competition where I was like, okay, the first competition might have been a fluke. I did well, but that could have just been easy topics or whatever. And then the more I worked with my coach and talked about the different aspects of debate, I was like, wait, this is something I could actually do. And I continued to do well. All my competitions I've competed at, I did really well, at least for my standards. I was taken by surprise by that, and it happened really quickly, I think. It was all pretty much in the one semester that I started it, which is why I continued and kept signing to continue participation. I kind of just fell into it, I guess.
Well, I personally initially was very scared. I had always viewed debate not as like a debate, but as an argument, and I don't really like confrontation. But I also feel like I'm never prepared enough to say what I want to say. So when I started debating, I realized that it's not arguments, it's debate. It's looking at facts and details and being able to determine who you should agree with or be persuaded to agree with based off of weighing mechanisms. And I just thought that that was so not unique, but something that I had never really encountered before in my day-to-day life. So when I started doing that, I just fell in love with it because here, this is a way that I can communicate ideas and discuss cordially with people about different topics of debate and things that, you know, come up in our day-to-day lives, and then have this skill set to be able to do so. So I loved getting that formal training and being able to talk and being able to debate and discuss things in such a way that enable us to, you know, talk about hard topics with good supporting data.
You get so trapped in like your ordinary bubble. You have, you know, your friends, your family, local community members, but speech and debate like pulls people from all different parts of like Ohio, and even as you go to national tournaments, different people across the country, that you see all these other people's like different lives and things that they care about. You're just like, wow, I didn't even think about that, but that is your whole world, and that's important, and I believe that it's important now after listening to this speech.
I think it's a great experience, and I think it gives you such a unique skill set that you don't necessarily, that it's something that you not necessarily can learn in a class for just a semester. I was shown a whole nother realm of opportunities that I'd never considered before. And I feel like no amount of learning or experiences are ever wasted. There's always something to be learned, and that will always help you in some shape or form, whether you can see how that happens or not.
I've just gained a lot of confidence in myself as far as my abilities. I went into my first competition and I thought I was gonna vomit. Like, I was just not ready. And I still get nervous every competition, but I think I've built up a little more faith in myself and kind of that trust that I know what I'm doing.
One of the things, of course, any teacher worth his salt thinks about is it isn't necessarily winning or achieving or doing these kinds of things, but the fact that you're participating at all. They come back as alumni, you find them saying, boy, I really got a lot out of my individual events. I really got a lot out of my debate program.
This is the most supportive, collaborative, diverse group of people that you'll probably ever work with in your lifetime. People are competing here, but they are supporting one another in a way that is just so fantastic to watch. And the skills that you'll get, no matter what career you're going into, no matter what your major is, the skills of public speaking translate into everyday life in every career and every aspect of the rest of your life.
The forensics team taught me to have confidence in what I want to say. You had to believe that I had a voice and to use it. It gave me a confidence I didn't have because of the ability to research and, you know, focus my attention on certain topics allowed for, you know, a growth in, you know, believing in my abilities to be intelligent when I'm speaking and everything, where I, you know, didn't have that prior to that. It just meant a lot to, you know, have faith that I can speak freely and intelligently without having to worry about, you know, how somebody might respond, because I can respond to them, you know, without hesitation.
The ability to just like process information really quickly, and then based on what you process, give like an immediate response. And that is something you cannot teach in a classroom. Like, you can only get that through learned experience and through some like innate ability. I think this is not an exaggeration. There is no other thing that you can do in the university that can give you those things.
I tell my students all the time that it is not the most intelligent person in the room that's probably going to get the job. It's the person that knows how to sell themselves. And I just really think that Pi Kappa Delta is going to give you the speaking skills and the polish that's going to help you do that.
This is something that builds life skills that almost any profession you go into, you know, from the debate side of it, of being able to just think through a problem logically and apply logic and fact-based decision making and defend your argument. That's going to be relevant to just about anything you do in your life. And then just the speaking side of it, just being confident and comfortable getting up in front of a group and speaking on your feet or delivering a presentation. I mean, there's literally nothing you can do in your life where that isn't going to be a valuable skill.
So go learn how to become a better speaker, and then no matter what you want to do, you're probably going to be the best one in the room, and you're going to get where you want to be in life just because you're confident in what you're doing and proposing the ideas that you would have had anyway. So go do it.
I just really think that there is so much to be gained from whatever kind of communication experience we have, whether it's a campus radio station, a TV channel, whether it be the various individual events. And you know, people who say to you, well, gee, I've never tried that before, I don't think I'd be, hey, try it, is the advice that most of us would give. So again, I would just wish and urge and hope that college students everywhere would have the opportunity to be exposed to such experiences as we have in forensics and such honors as we have in Pi Kappa Delta.
Pi Kappa Delta, I think, is going to continue to grow and to adapt with changes that are going to come with different events and different possibilities. All of forensics has had to deal with the issue of the disappearing program because of finances or coaches leave and they don't rehire. You know, that's always a challenge, but that's not unique. We've had that challenge before. And so I'm confident that Pi Kappa Delta can deal with it. Because forensics is a part of the curriculum here at Otterbein, I am confident that if one day I leave, that it will continue. It may not be exactly the same as I have run it, but I'm confident that the program will continue, will be here.